Happy Friday, everybody, and welcome back to Brown Bag Bets, powered by BetSports. We are your daily dose of quick hit handicapping and sports betting picks. I'm Alex Christensen, and joining me, as always, is Mr. Andy Molitor, and it's Friday. We're going to jam-pack as much crap as we can to get you ready for the weekend, so we bring in Mr. Matthew Rooney. A lot of sports to be covered today, but Andy, we'll start with that football game. Kudos to you guys. Over, second half over, all the overs. What a game. Points on Thursday. What an
Packers
idea.
are dead. It's great.
The double down, and yes, as Matt as a Bears fan and me as a sometime Vikings fan. Like
Former
although
Vikings fan?
Yeah,
if the Vikings go to the Super Bowl, will you root for them? Like want to see them win?
It depends what the spread is. Like,
Fair enough.
If
that answers my question.
If they're overvalued, then no.
That answers my question.
So I was gonna say I feel no fandom. This is like you've been divorced for 30 years. Like it's just a person. That woman means nothing to me anymore. I'm very indifferent to her. Like this is I have no love in my heart for the Vikings, but it's weird because I still I foster hate in my heart for the Packers.
I love it.
And I think some of that it's like a two-part.
Love dwindles, hate is forever.
Yeah, hate is
Good
forever
point.
because as a Vikings fan, you hate the Packers, and they had much more success over the past 30 years than the Vikings. They have a couple Super Bowls, and one of the biggest bets I ever had coming up, like when I was, it was a smaller bet nowadays, I guess, but this was the most I would ever bet on a side or a total, and I did it on the side and the total in that Lions game where he threw that Hail Mary. I mean, it just ruined like a month worth of betting for me. Like I gave back all my winnings on one pass. Like I couldn't even sleep after that. So I do hate it, Aaron Rodgers guts as well. But
I hate that.
yeah, I checked the sheet. We have 15 sports bets that we're going to talk about today. So I better stop talking about my life, and we should probably just get right into this and start with the most glamorous of sports. Honestly, I'm still cracking up the Ostapenko's hair. if nothing else, the most memeable. The memeable.
Did I miss
sport.
something?
Go on Andy's Twitter about a day or so ago. Not last night, but the night before, I think.
You get going. You get going on your bets. I'll start scrolling through Andy's Twitter.
Yeah, you'll figure it out pretty quickly. But Mr. Ostapenko is having fun in the islands because she doesn't really have to play tennis. Most of the best players have packed it in for the year, and they'll probably won't see them until last week of December, Andy, because that's when we start playing tennis in Australia. We head down under. Yeah. But until then, we are south of the border, but very, very south. South America even, in Buenos Aires.
The Ring of Fire. I love saying Ring of Fire. But yeah, this is getting a little back to your roots. The first set overs.
I love that you said roots. I love the way people from Minnesota say roots. But yes, going to go have a totally great day here in Buenos Aires here in the Challenger. Kasanseva plays Maria Lord Carl. Just really like a lot of these numbers here. The total itself is at 20.5, which kind of makes sense to me, honestly. The two-set matches for both of these women tend to be very quick, and you even see some long sets. Again, it's kind of that classic look of a WTA match of 6-4, 7-5, 6-2, something like that. So instead of taking the over there, really like this first set over 9.5. Again, had this a little better than standard juice, closer to -15, almost -120 myself. So +110 is a nice number. You should be able to find that pretty easily. And then over 2.5 sets, I've talked about this a bunch of times. The market is a little more efficient here generally, but anytime I see a number +170, +180 or better, and what looks to be a very competitive match, again, you go back, a lot of three-set matches for both of these women over the last couple weeks. You tend to see more three-setters on clay as well. Again, a little bit of a South American clay swing here. So the over 2.5 sets looks great here. There's even a +180 if you look hard enough. So over 9.5 games there in the first set, +110 or better. Over 2.5 sets again for Kasanseva Carl. This will start a little bit after the show finishes. This is the next matchup.
Next up on the docket. Yeah, the timing of this one stinks this year. I'm going to complain. This will be my bit. Every year I'm going to complain about Buenos Aires. It's that time of year. And I mean, it's that time of year. But I do love both the men's and the women's side. I do love the swing down under because I love the overnight.
South American tennis is great.
Auckland, all that bullshit down
yeah.
there. I do love and I love the Aussie Open. It just ruins your sleep schedule if you start betting it seriously, though. So
it's wild for a sport to have a major tournament like that, like third week. I don't think any other sport has any event like that. I know that some of the soccer leagues have like sort of an opening match for some sort of a cup, but it's like a lesser event. I mean, what sport again? You're like 5-10% into the season, major.
Yeah, it would be like, hey, the golf, golf starts with the Tournament of Champions and Sony. It's like, all right, Hawaii, a couple tournaments out in Hawaii where the guys there's you get the fun Instagram pictures of all the friends on the tour having drinks and Mai Tais out in Hawaii, and then boom, Masters. Like just Masters in January, which obviously wouldn't work out. The grass is brown, but yeah, it is very odd how the Australian Open just kind of pops right in. Blah! Just right there.
The U.S. Open. Track everybody to Arizona in February or something.
Yeah, there you go. I could get with that. But speaking of nice weather states, I don't know. We'll see how I'll have to ask Drew how it is in LA. Probably nicer than here. It's still snowing, but one game, Matt. Did you manage
no
to
sense
bet on the one game on a Friday night where there's no football, there's no anything, the World Cup hasn't started, so the NHL said, "Well, let's only have one game. We wouldn't want anyone to watch our product."
Andy and I were on a call earlier, and at the end we were talking about some of the bets we have for today. And I brought up this, and like the MLB gets a lot of flack for being the worst at marketing themselves and shooting themselves in the foot because they do that more than anybody. But like the NHL is right there with them. They're just a step above it. It's Friday night in the winter. People are inside. There's no college football. There's no pro football. And they said, yeah, let's have one game at 9:00 when over half the country's probably either out or asleep when this game drops the puck. So that's a great idea.
Is it a special game? Like, are they
Nope.
playing it outside? No,
nope.
It's just a hockey game.
It's the Canucks and it's the Kings.
No, it's a couple of bad West Coast teams.
And the Kings are okay. The Kings are 11-7 this year. They're going to be
all right.
a team. One of my bets here, though, Andy, I was just going to go with the over. But you mentioned in a chat that you had a Bruce Boudreau first coach to be fired future, so I wanted to, in solidarity, there throw the Kings money line in here too. Kings have won 4 of their last 5. They're playing pretty good hockey. They're 11-7-1 on the year. I think they're a team that's probably going to compete in that division and be a team that we see in the playoffs again this year. I'm going to take them on the money line against the Canucks team that's just been really oddly bad defensively. I know Bruce Boudreau coach teams are never really like the model of defense, but they've been terrible in net. Both of their goaltenders have a goals against average over 3.3. I think their starter, Thatcher Demko, has one over 4, and he was supposed to be pretty darn good this year. For whatever reason, the Canucks cannot figure it out. They did win their last game out against Buffalo, but Buffalo is another team that's been struggling. So they kind of won a battle of 2 struggling teams there, but they've allowed 4+ goals. On average, they're allowing 4 goals in their last 3 games. Kings are scoring 4 goals in their last 3 games, and they're averaging over 3.3 goals a game this year. So both teams can score. Both teams haven't been very good defensively this year. The Canucks, especially, like I said, allowed 4 goals a game. So we're going to take the over, and then we're going to take the Kings money line. They're the better team, and I wanted to, out of solidarity, hop on the board there with Andy and help get him towards his first coach fired bet. That's what I do. I'm a team player, Andy, just for you.
And I just bet the over 7.5.
Love it. Alternate overs. I'm fine with it.
And apparently that's a softer market even at Chris, because I flashed the screen with not very much money. So apparently people aren't betting into those very much, or maybe I've been flagged as a sharp hockey account. I don't know.
I need to start looking into some period overs, because I remember last year towards the end of the year, there was the last like month or so, Maple Leafs second period overs. I don't remember I talked about them. They were like it was always like 2 goals still, but it was like they're plus money every time, and they were hitting it like an 80% clip. It was ridiculous.
It was like over 2.5 or something, or 2.
It was like over. It was either 2.5 or 2, and they were going over every damn time at plus money, and the books just never caught up to it. So that's something that I'm going to start looking into again.
When there's nothing going on, I live bet those. Like when my family was gone for the week, and I was at the bar by myself, just like yakking with the bartender, and I was betting live period overs. I do kind of love that stuff, especially when I'm actually watching the hockey. Speaking of things I won't watch tonight or today, there's been a lot of basketball, and there's a lot of basketball that's all day long today. So, and Drew and I were joking about this. This is actually pretty funny. Like Drew hit this on the head. We talked about the Buffalo Cleveland change of venue. And I specifically bet an over in that game banking. I was feeling it was like 70-30. They'd move it to Detroit. They did move it to Detroit. I got a little lucky, so I have an over 44 at plus money. I sold out as far as I could, thinking like this will open 49 if it's in Detroit. It did. It's further been bet up. Kudos to me for reading the fine print at 17 goddamn books and ended up there's not that many that'll honor those bets. DraftKings was one of them, though. I didn't drive to Iowa to do so, but I know a lot of people who bet the under in that and now are holding a horrible number. You know, if you bet under 42 and then it moves to Detroit and they honor the bet, and now it's 49.50, you're feeling pretty bad. And I joked with Drew. I said, man, it doesn't seem like an opportunity for DraftKings to just kind of grant them clemency. Like, hey, we're refunding all under bets because you guys got hosed by this snowstorm. And I said, you know, they're going to have that money back by like Thanksgiving anyway. And Drew said, have you seen this? There's a 10 a.m. basketball game like every day for 10 days. Like they'll have their money back before the turkeys are bought, much less cooked. Like, that's fair.
It's not wrong.
Don't donk your money on a basketball game just because of the start time. I mean, I bet the game yesterday because I showed an edge, and honestly, it missed by a bucket. That sucks. UMass was nice; they won outright. Sam Houston State won outright. But try not to get too squirrely on these games. If you have to bet it, just bet it small. But man, there are so many games that start at like noon, 10 o'clock for the next week. Take it easy, guys.
It's halftime in the Niagara game, basically.
Yeah, I know. There was a 5 a.m. game they played in London or
5 a.m.
So 5 a.m.
Who was over there?
Again, it was like a Max or a MAAC school. It was like Ryder was playing.
Yeah, I still follow Illinois Wesleyan's like basketball account, and they're playing. They started a game at like 10 a.m. this morning, and that's a D3 school. Like, what are we doing? I love it.
We're having fun, guys.
We're not going to class. That's what we're doing.
Screw class, kids. We got a game.
Part of it is these preseason tournaments. When you're playing 4 or 5 games in the same gym, you have to start one at 11 a.m., guys. Yeah. Like that's the reason Penn State, Virginia Tech are playing so early. They're in the Charleston Classic. There's 3 other games that have to be played. Same thing with the Myrtle Beach tournament. Colorado, Texas A&M is noon Eastern because they have other games to be played in the same gym that day. I didn't bet into much of those, but I do have a couple looks, starting with the team that stung me last time I bet them, but I'm back in the well. And this is just basically because this shouldn't be this big of a spread. I have these teams very close to each other. Honestly, I could make a case that Vermont should be a small favorite. Worst case, this should be a pick 'em. I know it's a road game, so we'll give the benefit of the doubt. Give Iona a couple of points for hosting, but for the most part, I'm pretty much on this game being a pick 'em based on really everything about these teams, their offensive, their defensive adjustments, the efficiencies. The only real thing is just Iona hasn't turned the ball over much. I know we have a small sample size. I'm using a lot of priors from last year still. Vermont played tougher teams, I believe, and truthfully, I think this game should be a pick 'em. Getting 4 points feels like a gift here, so I'm gonna be excited about that one when Vermont loses their 4th goddamn game of the season. Hopefully they lose it close. And speaking of teams I've picked on before, I did bet against the Oklahoma State, whatever they called, Cowboys. I believe it's the Cowboys. So, yeah, the Cowboys are a 2-1 team, and I bet Southern Illinois as an underdog. Southern Illinois took them down straight up, 61-60. Oklahoma State really has an offense when they're playing a shitty team. They played UT Arlington. They played Oakland. That's Michigan squad. And they beat the tar out of them. When they play a team with anything for a defense, apparently, it's just not going as well. What we saw in the Southern Illinois game. UCF is better than Southern Illinois. And yes, this is, again, not a game that's at home for UCF. I think this is another one that's a tournament game. Oklahoma State. Yeah, this one is in the Bahamas. So this is a neutral site. This is another one. It's not starting crazy early. This does start at like 6 Eastern. So maybe not early for anybody, but just looking at this game too, I can't get this anywhere close to this number. I think Oklahoma State's just not nearly this good on defense compared to where they were last year. And when they face decent teams, they're going to get exposed. I worry about this team when they get to conference play. I think they're going to kind of slide down the rankings for me, but I had this one, I don't know, looks like 3.5. So I like this number quite a bit. I tend to show bigger edges early in the season. And then Arkansas State finally playing. I have a couple looks that I haven't even bet yet. This one. Oh, UC Davis. This is another one too, where UC Davis is the better team, but certainly not by 8 points. I make this 5.5, maybe 6. We stretch it out here too. I haven't bet on Arkansas State at all. I know their offense. Both these offenses are bad. Both of these are better defensive teams. But yeah, just kind of looking at the schedule so far for UC Davis, they are, what are we, 2-1 out in the Big West. They got to win against Cal, which really shouldn't count for anything. California might be, God, they might be the worst team out there. There's people that are betting on them. I'm one of them that may bet on California as a favorite today. Feels horrible as a really, really rough squad. And then they beat Cal Maritime, which I don't think counts for much either. Lost to Loyola Marymount, and this is another spot too where I think they're actually live to lose this game, but I'll take the 8 points. I think that's value here with a squad that's maybe, I don't know, punching down at most times. So, and the Iona game, is it at the Mohegans Sun?
In Uncasville, Connecticut.
That's a name? Uncasville?
That's according to Bovada, Uncasville, or maybe it's Uncaseville. Not really sure, but yes, at the Mohegan Sun Arena.
Yeah,
sure.
I love that even more.
You got to bet on it if you're there.
Yeah,
right?
no, I had it. I had that one as a neutral. I just had no idea where it was. Like once I figured out,
go watch it.
Once I figured out it's a neutral, I'm just like, what? I realized it was somewhere up there because they certainly didn't get to go to the Bahamas. But yeah, and I don't think you can actually bet on that if you live in Connecticut then.
Don't know either.
That's
never been to Connecticut.
Yeah. And that is as Hannikin points out.
I've driven through Connecticut.
The California game is certainly funny for many reasons. They're a bad squad. This might be your one chance to bet on California all year. It's a rough squad. Aaron Rodgers losing, Cal terrible. It's a lot of fun if you're a Berkeley backer. At least if you went there, at least you have a really good education, guys.
Big Cal Stanford game this weekend.
You get to live in California for 4 years. That sounds so bad.
Southern though. I mean, for a Pac-12 school to be a 4-point home favorite against a SWAC school, fade the SWAC. Fuck, I might just add California. So, all right, on to the professionals. When some of these guys graduate, they're going to be drafted. And they're going to play in a little league known as the NBA. And I'm excited to watch some NBA because there's not a whole lot on tonight.
Gotta watch something, right? And I know you like basketball. There's probably plenty of that college basketball on, but I will be watching the professionals again. I'm a lot snootier than Andy is. I prefer the higher quality of basketball, as you will. And but pretty similar strategy, Andy. We're going to play a couple underdogs tonight, as well as a huge slate on a Friday night. A lot of games that are relatively close, but 3 looks I like quite a bit and have played already. Going to go back the Houston Rockets again. One for his outright 9-point underdogs, 5-point underdogs, whatever you played them at against the Dallas Mavericks the other night. The Indiana Pacers, for some reason, are road favorites by 5. This game is at Houston. I've really struggled with this number quite a bit. The Pacers have been pretty good. The addition of Tyrese Halliburton has obviously been excellent. He's a really good player. Benedict Mathurin has been playing well. They still have yet to trade Miles Turner and Buddy Hield. So you've got a solid basketball team there, but I just don't rate this Pacers team anywhere near this. I could see them being maybe 1-2 point favorites, but had this much closer to a pick on myself. So give me the Rockets plus 5. Then the under in Orlando, Chicago. No Paulo Banchero. He really drives a lot of the offense and scoring for the Orlando Magic. You start to look, they still just have one guard with Jalen Suggs. The offense has been a little bit clunky. The Chicago Bulls love to play at a slow pace. They're fully healthy tonight and should be able to control this game. Had this total in the mid 2 teens. So anything 220 or higher, happy to take the under there. And then as much as it pains me to say this, go Knicks. Going to be betting the Knickerbockers of New York tonight, plus 7.5 points. Just going to continue to fade this Warriors team that just can't seem to figure out how to win basketball games. Came into the season intentionally starting slow, playing most of their starters 30 minutes a game or less, and I think are still struggling to get into gear. We've seen them in recent games try to play the starters a little bit more, but they really got beat up by the Phoenix Suns the other night and continue to struggle against teams, like the Knicks that are pretty solid, have some depth, and really aren't afraid, are always going to bring kind of their best effort against the Golden State team that everybody tries to beat, especially now that they're the defending champions. Had this number myself closer to 4.5. So, anything 6.5 or better looks pretty good. Plenty of 7s, plenty of 7.5s out there. So Rockets, Knicks, and then a Bulls Magic under.
Magic. I ride with the Rockets again. I got Rockets money to spend.
I like that Bulls Magic under. I mean, when you have a team that's banged up and then another team that's not very good offensively and refuses to shoot threes, that's pretty high total.
Yeah,
look at that. Holt's going to
the
Celtics game. That'll be fun. I need to get up to the Target Center yet. I got to look for a Good Friday game. And then I can go.
I should go to the Sixers game tonight.
Nice meal afterwards. I don't think the Timberwolves have a home game this weekend, but I think my Gophers play.
They do.
Mr. Matt, let's. This is hilarious. I love this.
It's a fun. We put it up. I'm going with the over 32.5 in your Gophers game this weekend, Andy. I don't know if you have anything on the Minnesota game, but man, it's just I wanted to take the under, but like Iowa's offense has woken up the last couple weeks and they put up like 24, 33, and 24 points. And Minnesota's offense has actually been fine all year. They've been able to run the football decently. I know Iowa plays good defense, but I still think both teams will be able to put up like 17 points apiece. I really don't think that's too much to ask in this one. Iowa will probably score a defensive touchdown somehow. So we're going to take that over and plug our noses and hope that happens. And then speaking of leagues that don't really know how to market themselves, the Pac-12, 2 marquee matchups. We have UCLA going to USC. UCLA got upset last week at home against Arizona, against a frisky Arizona team in a little bit of a look-ahead spot. Dan and I talked about this one on the college football show a couple times, Tuesday and Thursday. Really, whatever the plus money line side for this one was probably the right bet because they're 2 pretty even teams. Can see really anything happening here. I do tend to lean UCLA, so I'm glad they were the plus money team here. USC just lost their running back in Travis Dye. Their receivers have been a little bit banged up, and their run defense is incredibly inefficient against the run. Both of these teams run the football very well. USC has Caleb Williams, who's one of the best quarterbacks so far in the country this year. So I just see this game going back and forth. I think UCLA pulls it out because I think they're going to be able to run the ball a little bit more consistently than USC. And the over is at like 75.5. I will probably sprinkle that 2 out of principle just because. And then Utah minus 2.5 at Oregon. It doesn't look like Bo Nix is going to play. At least it's trending that way. So keep an eye on maybe the injuries before you place a wager on that one. And I know sometimes you don't find out till literally the teams take the field and warm up. So keep an eye on it. But Utah's been playing really good football since they beat USC. Oregon coming off a pretty tough loss at home against Washington. Bo Nix not going to play. If he's not playing, I don't see how Utah doesn't win this game. Not too comfortably, but I do think they win this one by a touchdown, maybe 10 points. Oregon's really bad against the run. Utah is a pretty dynamic offense, surprisingly, this year, and I think their defense is well coached enough that they'll be able to take away what will turn into a little bit of a one-dimensional offense, most likely, if Bo Nix isn't playing for Oregon. These 2 teams, you remember, played back-to-back weeks, I believe it was last year. Maybe it was 2 times in 3 weeks, and Utah just beat the hell out of Oregon twice. So this staff, I think, knows this Oregon team pretty well. I like Utah on the road to essentially end Oregon's season and their bid at a Pac-12 title.
Goddamn right, I ride with that. I already have a Utah ticket. Let's go.
Yeah, it's the number 10 team versus the number 12 team in the country. and they're kicking off at 9:30 Central Time. That's great.
Yeah,
Good
I
job,
won't.
guys.
I won't.
Yeah,
I won't be
good
able to
job, guys.
watch it.
That's a really
I'll,
good way to market your league.
I will. Yeah, I'll check on that one Sunday morning.
Yep. Yeah.
And as I watch some World Cup, and it is World Cup, the first of my World Cup bets.
Good
And
thing we
yes,
didn't go to Qatar, so we can have beer when we watch it.
Oh, I forgot to add my bet. First half under. We're taking first half under all the first games.
All the first game. I'm with
all
it.
the first games, all game ones.
And we're in the World Cup.
Yep.
What are we like? What is that usually one? Is that usually 1.5 half? What are we looking at for normal first half unders in soccer?
Oh, they're gonna be half.
Probably 0 points. Probably 3/4 or ones if you're or really juicy.
Well, I know because like if you look at hockey for the most part, sometimes you'll get a 2, but pretty much every time a period total is first period is 1.5. So I don't know if it was similar.
I'm expecting a lot of 0.75.
There's going to be a lot of 3/4. You're going to get plus money on the under of like 3/4. So if people don't understand, let's say you're a little newer to sports betting, but you've got it figured out, and then you start to bet soccer, and you're like, what the shit is a 0.75? When you bet on a 0.25 or a 0.75, it is taking whatever. Let's just say you'd bet $100 for make it easy. It's making 2 separate bets for you. So on a 0.25, you're betting on the flat and you're betting on the half. And so you can lose half your bet and push half your bet. And the same thing goes with the 0.75. You're betting on the half and you're betting on the whole. So, you can lose a bet and push a bet. You can win a bet and push a bet. Your stake is essentially cut in half. So if it's minus, and we'll get to one because I have one. I have a real life example. This will make it even easier. Let's look at my bets. I don't really think that Qatar paid off the Ecuadorian players. I think that's more of an internet rumor. Dan has talked me into probably betting. If you want to bet the narrative that the Ecuadorian players have been bet off and that are paid off, and that game is actually happening, and it's been predetermined, the bet would be first half draw, second half Qatar. So if you want to bet that, first half draw, second half Qatar. I just think both of these teams are going to be kind of dreadful, and I'm with you on the KG first, the first half unders, the first half, the first game unders, first game unders. I am going to take the under 2 in this one. And if it ends up that, what they said was going to happen and all the conspiracy theories, it's going to be 1-0 Qatar, then we cash this. I think 0-0 is very much in the books as well. So maybe they drug the Ecuadorian players and they play a little slower. That's not off the map at either. So I'm taking the under in the first one. This is the only game that will be contested on Sunday. And then I know there's some games Monday more than this. There are more games than this on Monday. I just wanted to get the early one out of the way because this is like 8 a.m. Eastern. Senegal, Netherlands will play 11 a.m. Eastern. I'll tweet out what I'm playing on that one. I've made a promise to play every single World Cup match, and I will. But for now, I'm taking excuse me, just some action on the early one. Iran, who's not a good team, against a pretty good team in England. But again, these early cagey matches, we'll see how they adjust to the temperature, the atmosphere. I know they're saying they're going to have AC. This is how you can tell this country's rich as fuck. They're going to run the air conditioning with the windows open, essentially. Open air stadiums with air conditioning. Like they're saying they're using solar power. God knows they're just burning oil to do this. They have enough oil. So they're just going to shoot like cold air at field level and then recycle the air somehow. They say it's going to be fairly comfortable. We'll see. I'm excited to get some firsthand reports from people who are attending or some actual quotes from players. But Iran plus 1.5 versus the mighty English 3 Lions. So plus 1.25 means I'm making, let's say I'm taking $100. $100 is bet on Iran plus 1, which can push if they lose by 1. So $50 on Iran plus 1 and $50 on Iran plus 1.5. So if they lose by 1 goal, half of my bet will push, half of my bet will win. So that's how that works. If they tie or win the match, my whole bet wins. If they lose by 2, my whole bet loses. And again, like if they only lose by 1 goal, it's a half a push, a half a win. If you have further questions, bug me on Twitter. I'll try to explain it deeper than that. But it's basically it. 1.25 is just splitting your bet in half on 1 and 1.5. So Iran plus 1.25, Asian handicap minus 105, and then the first game under on Sunday, hoping for a board draw in that one. I wish you guys all the best of luck in all your World Cup bets and World Cup watching. Hopefully you stay at home so you can drink a beer while you watch the matches. Let's go Germany. Let's go Iran. Drew is cheering for South Korea. He got them in the Calcutta. So let's go Asian teams and let's go Asian handicap. And with that, thanks to Matt for joining us as always on a Friday. Thanks to Noops for spitting the NBA wisdom all week. And thanks to producer Dan for putting it all together. And especially you guys for watching and hitting the thumbs up on the way out. Good luck in life, love, and gambling. Until next time, we'll see you. We'll see you then.